So multiply by 1,000, that's 13,000 milligrams to 100,000 milligrams versus our RDA of 150. And we now know, and there's documentation to show there's direct correlations between those estrogen-driven cancers, including breast, ovarian, uterine, cervical, and, by the way, guys, prostate cancer. I mean, prostate cancer occurs mostly in elderly men. The vast majority of men over the age of 75 probably have prostate cancer, and less than 5% of those men will die of prostate cancer. So it's not what we're told to believe, and of course the antidote to that is let's get a biopsy on everybody. Just like they want to put everybody on statin drugs, you know, it sells a lot of stuff. But what happens with men, it's not, you know, if you think about testosterone being the culprit, it's really not testosterone that's the culprit in prostate cancer. It's dihydrotestosterone, which is a incomplete metabolic pathway, which creates this testosterone that actually creates problems. And that's kind of the hormonal imbalances in the body, which can be mineral related, it also can be food related, it can be fat related. Oftentimes, if you got a nice big spare tire, you're going to be producing, you know, hormonal activities that are going to convert testosterone to dihydrotestosterone. So is it testosterone that's the problem, or is it, you know, imbalances in the diet that are the problem? It's the latter. So what do they do when you have prostate cancer? They put you on estrogen, which means then men have hot flashes and they grow breasts. This is great. I can't wait. I'm looking forward to that. Thank you again for another cure that is completely off the charts. So iodine, we've known for years that, you know, iodine, it's concentrated in the thyroid gland. It's also concentrated in the ovaries, and the second largest gland in terms of amounts is the breast, the mammary gland. So therefore, lactating animals, humans, goats, sheep, cows, etc., concentrate iodine in the lacteal ducts. And we find out that iodine, in combination with milk protein, makes a very strong anti-carcinogenic compound called iodoprotein and iodolipids. And these are very important for the neonates, the young, to get these compounds, these iodine, fat, iodine, protein compounds. Iodine is a very strong disinfectant. It's the only disinfectant that's still used ubiquitously and effectively in hospitals for that reason. It's the only teat dip that they still find is effective on pre-dipping and post-dipping lactating animals for infections. The other ones don't seem to last. Iodine does. It's in the halogen family, so it's related to chlorine, bromine, fluorine. And our environment is very much contaminated with chlorine, bromine, and fluorine. Fire retardants are in the bromine, water's chlorinated, well, bromine is in a lot of, unfortunately, a lot of upholstery and stuff. Drapes, carpet, and in fact, in Europe, the bromine fire retardant over there that's banned, okay, it's banned in Europe, it's still allowed in the United States. As a consequence of that, women's breast milk in the United States has something like 40 times more of this bromine-based fire retardant than European breast milk has. And this is a carcinogen. So, goitrogenic compounds suppress thyroid. What are the goitrogenic compounds? Soy is a goitrogenic compound. A lot of raw brassicas are a goitrogenic compound. What are the brassicas? Broccoli, kale. Now, I like broccoli, kale. What's the best way to eat broccoli and kale? Is to ferment them or steam them. And eat raw amounts, you know, in a moderate basis. I'm not against eating them, but if you ate a huge amount of brassicas over and over again, you ate a lot of soy, you're going to get a goitrogenic effect, which is going to suppress the thyroid. And so we have all these interferences in our society that affect the thyroid gland, and the thyroid gland desperately needs, you know, the right kind of halogen. So when you take adequate amounts of iodine and iodide, you tend to flush out these other halogens that are interfering. that accumulate in the thyroid. You can actually do iodine loading tests or bromine loading tests to find out. Once you take iodine, you start urinating out bromine, for example. Also, metals, like mercury. So it's a very, very interesting substance. It's in the halogen family, but seaweeds are loaded with it. Up to 0.5% of seaweeds can contain elemental iodine. There's nothing higher in iodine food-wise than seaweeds. And we know that reproduction silent heats, or poor estrus, extended gestation, depressed libido, poor sperm quality, all of that, vitamin A metabolism, and of course the thyroid gland also depends on selenium to convert T4 to T3, the active form of thyroxine, the hormone that's in the gland. So when you're trying to take care of the thyroid gland, and you're looking at iodine as one of the root minerals that helps the thyroid gland, it's always important to make sure you have adequate amounts of selenium, which I'll get into in a little bit. This just goes to show you fertility in hen's eggs, with iodine deficiency, 90 out of 106 versus 44. So fertility is based on iodine intake. Cobalt, vitamin B12, trace element. You can't have a ruminant without cobalt because you can't have a ruminant without B12. And what B12 does in a ruminant, it allows that animal to metabolize glucose properly. It converts propionic acid, which is one of the fatty acids that's produced in fermentation, into glucose. So since that animal is depending on fermenting cellulose to make a volatile fatty acid, which is this energy like vinegar, propionic acid, then you need B12 to take that propionic acid and convert it to what the cell needs, which is what? Sugar, glucose. Well, there's a lot of things going on in B12. We all need B12 for what? Really good oxygen carrying capacity of the blood, the immune system, parasite resistance, fertility, cellular longevity, the absorption of and metabolism of fats. All this is related to cobalt. The protection mineral is selenium. The real key with selenium is this compound up there in the second line called glutathione peroxidase. I love these words. I know there are scientists that stay awake nights trying to come up with words that are hard for me to pronounce and impossible for you to remember. So I know you've heard a whole day of this stuff, and it's not important to remember these names, just really important to me to remember the concepts of the connecting the dots concepts. But glutathione peroxidase is that enzyme that's made up of selenium and 3 amino acids. And the 3 amino acids are glycine, glutamic acid, and methionine. And that makes up glutathione. You take those 3 amino acids, you hook it up with selenium, and you make this powerful enzyme called glutathione peroxidase. And guess what? You don't have natural killer cells unless you have glutathione peroxidase. Which means if you have a selenium deficiency, you're likely to have an enzyme deficiency, which means you're likely to have suppressed immunity. That's why some of the best flu vaccine that you can take is adequate amounts of selenium. For that reason, right there. Very strong antiviral replicating drug, that glutathione peroxidase is, along with many other things. So it detoxifies mercury and lead. It produces IgM and IgG antibodies. Reproduction. If you have selenium deficiencies in your livestock, you're going to have fertility problems. You're going to have retained placentas. You're going to have abortions. Your colostrum is going to be lower in immunoglobulins for the baby if you have a deficiency. Very, very important element. It takes very small amounts. I would supplement with it. I take myself 600 micrograms a day. I'm a strong believer of it. I know when I'm on it and I know when I'm not. And I'm not too often not on it. So, yeah, very important. And iodine is very important for the flu prevention. Chromium metabolizes the sugars and the fats. This is the diabetic trace element, along with vanadium, found in a lot of foods like brewer's yeast and molasses and kelp. It's a very ubiquitous element. It's not hard to get. But if you don't eat those foods, it's not found in many other kinds of foods. It's found in forages if the soil's got